friends. How are you doing today? I'm so glad you're here to help me make applesauce. Did you know that there's over 2,500 different types of apples in the United States? And there are over 7,500 varieties in the world. That's a lot of apples. Let's take a look at some apples. Here are the apples that I have laid out for our applesauce project today. You can see there's different colors. There's red, there's kind of red and yellowish, there's green, there's kind of in between. They're different shapes. Some are small, some are bigger. This is my favorite type of apple. I don't happen to have one, but this is an opal apple. It's a yellow apple. I love them. They're sweet and they're crispy and they're very juicy also. So one thing I wanted to show you is, have you ever cut an apple? Usually we cut an apple, we'll take a core and we'll press it down and make some apples. Have you ever done this? Have you ever cut an apple in half? Look what's inside. I love this. If you cut an apple in half that way, you get a star. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. Okay, we're going to get started making applesauce. So here is our recipe. It calls for 12 apples, 1 cup of water, some cinnamon, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Then it tells us to wash, peel, and core the apples, throw out the cores, chop the apples into chunks, put the apples in a pot with the remaining ingredients, and simmer, which means to kind of just let it cook on the stove gently for about 15 minutes or until the apples are all soft. And then it says, oops, my ingredients. Okay, so I have my apples in the sink and I'm going to start washing them. That'll be the first thing. And you guys have probably all seen these. Every piece of produce has a little sticker on it that tells you what type of apple it is, and it has a little barcode on for when you're checking out. So I'm going to wash the apples first. Okay, so I have washed my apples and taken all the stickers off. Let's count to make sure. The recipe called for 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Great, we have 12 apples. Okay, I'm going to do something fancy here. Instead of just peeling and cutting them up, I'm going to use my apple peeler. Press that on there firmly. And then we're going to start turning the handle. Around and around it goes. Sorry about that, I had to get it going. And that peels and cores and slices my apple. Look at that. Oops. All right, that kind of looks like a mess, but let me make sense of this here. All right, so we have the pieces of the slices. See how that comes out? Comes out in slices. For some reason my peel got stuck in between there, but we can pull that out. So then I'll end up with a whole bunch of apple slices. Sometimes it's fun to use this little gadget and just make apple slices. You can put a little bit of cinnamon and brown sugar on them and put them in the oven and bake them. They make really yummy apple chips. Oops, there's more. So I'm going to do this with all of these apples. See, then the core stays on there, and I've got all the peel. Isn't that weird how the peeling comes off like that? So I'm going to take care of all these the same way, and then I'll be back and I'll show you what comes next. Okay, I have peeled all the apples, and I have to say that was an interesting experience. We talked about how there's a lot of different varieties of apples, and some are crispy and some are juicy. Well, here's a few more words we can add. Some are mushy, like I went to do this apple and it just fell apart. But then this one was very crispy and it just popped right out of the apple core like nothing. See, some of them came out really nice. This one I actually had to use this to chop it with. So, okay, so the next thing our recipe says is to chop into chunks. So I'm going to do a little chopping here. These are all fairly small already, so we won't have to chop too much. Pretty much if I cut them in half, I think. So when you're doing this at home, you have your mom or dad help you find an appropriate cutting tool. Chop up some apples. Well, so they're already starting to get brown a little bit. That happens. It just changes the apple a little bit. It doesn't change the flavor or anything. Okay, so now we're going to put all these into the bowl. It's a lot of apples, isn't it? How many was that again? 12. Almost there's a seed. We don't want that in our applesauce, do we? There's another one. We'll take those out. Almost have it here. Okay. Now our next ingredient is 1 cup of water. So I have water ready and waiting here. I'm going to dump that into the bowl of water. And then the next one is cinnamon to taste. And I have to admit, I'm not a big cinnamon fan. So I'll sprinkle a little bit of that on there. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons actually. There we go. Our cinnamon. Now it calls for 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. So here's my brown sugar. I love brown sugar. I like to put brown sugar. I like to put brown sugar on my oatmeal. Okay, we'll add that in there. And then it calls for lemon juice to taste. So, I was going to point out something. Apples grow on trees. We talked about that. But we also mentioned lemons grow on trees. So I thought it would be fun to do our own lemon. Okay, so I'm going to use my lemon juicer. Get some juice out of this lemon. And then we're going to pour that in there, and that will also help keep the apple from getting brown. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Oh, what's this? It's a pear. So apples grow on trees, lemons grow on trees, and so do pears. I thought it would be fun. You know what? We can throw a pear in there also. Look at that. throw that in there. Okay, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Something I like to add to my applesauce is almond flavoring. Just a tiny little bit. Gives it a nice flavor. Okay, now I'm going to stir this all up. I need a bigger container though. I'm going to put it into the pan that we're going to cook it in. So I'll be back. Okay, I have added the apples to the pan. My bowl was a little too small, so I went ahead and added them to the pan, and we will mix it up here. So I'm going to stir that up, and then the next step will be to turn it on. All right, now we're going to let that simmer. So that means we just have to kind of be patient and wait. So I will be back after a bit when this begins to simmer and show you. Okay, I've put a lid on it and it's beginning to simmer a little bit. Can you hear it? Ooh, I hear it. Let's stir it up a little bit. You see the bubbles and the steam? So that's gonna cook that all down so it gets nice and soft. And it'll get so soft that eventually it will just mash up into applesauce. All right, we'll check back in another few minutes. Okay, let's check it again. It's been cooking for about 10 minutes. And ooh, look, the apples are cooking down. They're getting softer, so they're kind of mushing up. Okay, we'll let it keep cooking. See you back in another 10 minutes or so. Okay, it's been another 10 minutes, and let's have a look. Wow, it's really getting cooked down, getting closer. So we'll check back in another 10 minutes, and we'll see where things are at that point. And my house smells so good right now. Yummy. Okay, friends, it's kind of at the point where, you know, everybody likes their applesauce a little bit different. I kind of like mine a little bit chunky, so I will probably stop cooking mine here, but you could continue to cook this a little bit longer until all of the apple has cooked up, and you can mash it down and get a nice and smooth texture depending on what you like. But let's see. It looks hot, but I'm going to give it a try. Delicious. Have fun making some applesauce at home.